Welcome to the podcast, Jacqueline. I am so excited to talk to you about your business and your mission and how you help any mom or entrepreneur really think about their passion and how they can turn it into a business. So, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we got redheads on the show today. I'm always excited with a fellow redhead on the show. If you're only listening to this on the podcast, like I was telling Jacqueline before we hit record, definitely check it out on our YouTube channel as well. It adds a whole other dimension to the conversation. Um, so Jacqueline, you're doing such exciting work. So you transitioned from a corporate environment to being an entrepreneur. Can you tell listeners a little bit about your journey and what you're doing now?
Sure, absolutely. So I was in corporate marketing for many, many years, for 15 years, I think. And then, I wanted to spend more time with my kids. And at that time, my oldest was going into high school and was playing baseball. And I wanted to be there. I wanted to be at all the games. It was pretty easy. So I decided to be a marketing consultant. And so I ended up creating basically freelancing and doing consultant work. Well, it ended up that after about 7 years, I burned myself out completely because of what happened. And this is what I talk a lot about my journey is I ended up creating a job, a really hard job, and not necessarily creating a business.
Mm-hmm.
So I was burned out. I went back to school and became an interior designer, worked for 3 different architecture firms in the commercial interior design space. Then I realized there was a disconnect between a lot of within that industry, but also in a lot across everything, is that some of the things that I had gone through or that I had learned were actually really helpful to other people. So I created Behind the Design, and initially it was for the interior design market, but we really opened that up because we realized there were so many people that were struggling with this concept of, how do I build a business? How do I get the support that I need? How do I learn beyond college? I taught for a number of years at the college, and so I really realized that I could only teach so much in that short period of time. And so I really wanted an educational outlet as well as an opportunity to serve different entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. I think that that is so creative. And I mean, you're a designer and I can see your lovely space behind you, but I love how you just kind of didn't. I think this is common among entrepreneurs. They don't just accept what is, they're constantly envisioning how things can be better. And so I'd love to hear about your mission to reimagine how designers are taught and how they learn after their more formal education. And so, how does Behind the Design bridge that gap?
We've done it in several ways. We offer a lot of free resources around how to grow your business. So we have, 25 ways to grow your traffic on your website. We have a new item out just now that is, how 30-day calendar of social posts. We find all these different resources. And then we also offer courses. And so the idea behind that is you can get whatever education you put into it. Now, the courses take you straight through where our blog, where we're posting all the time, YouTube, we put out content constantly. And so our whole idea and our whole strategy is how much content can we share? And then on the back end of that, for the folks that we talk to where they're like, okay, I need help. I can't do this alone. We offer marketing services to them. So we help them grow by actually doing some of that work for themselves. Because one thing I realized a long time ago is that you cannot build a business on your own, and then it's okay to ask for help, whether that's, a VA that works 5 hours a week or whether that's hiring, people that specialize in certain things. I can do things myself, but I realize there are other people that can be much more efficient so that I can focus on my genius zone.
Hmm. Yeah, and I love that. And that kind of leads into something that you said earlier that I'd love for you to talk about more, in that regardless of what business you create, you can fall into this trap of creating a job rather than a business. So for somebody who's like, I don't know if I have done that. I'm feeling a little burnout. What are some of the telltale signs that you have kind of created more of a job than a business?
One of it is okay, looking at the money standpoint, are you making money when you're not working? And that's one of the things that I really struggled in when I was doing my marketing consulting business is that I realized that, yes, I had the freedom to take off and go watch a baseball game. But if I wasn't working or if I was on vacation, my business wasn't making money. The business just stopped. Nothing progressed while I was gone. And that's one thing when I created Behind the Design, like, no, businesses have to continue when their owners are on vacation or when their owners, get sick or have to attend, to their children, whatever that is we have to build things beyond that. And so when we look at, okay, as a freelance or a consultant or a solopreneur, yeah, you can make some good money, but are you doing it at the expense of your health, at the expense of your family? Are you working yourself to death? And if you start feeling that resentment towards the business, chances are that that's exactly what you created. And so what we really talk about is we call it hobby to profitability. How do you build a business? And the
Mhm.
hobby, whether it be a solopreneur, a small business where you're just you, or you're just not sure how to get it over that, leap. We talk a lot about one, it comes down to mindset. Your mindset has the biggest impact on your success. And then the second pillar we talk about are systems. Within a business, there are systems. And so if you're an entrepreneur who thinks, oh, I'm the only one who can do this work, that is a very false mindset because the truth of the matter is if you build systems, anybody can replicate what your systems you created. And so it's really important within a business that we're creating those systems so that your business knows how to operate when you're not there, or how other people can offer the same experience to clients as you can. That's still high level. And then the last thing is habits. We talk about how you implement your habits to ensure that everybody on your team is delivering the same and following those systems. And it's just really important when we start thinking of our business as its own separate entity from ourself, then we really kind of can separate that and go, okay, how do I make this work when I can't work? And so when we look at it that way, and yes, there's a lot of risk, but you can take calculated risks related to that. And the more systems you have, the more those risks are mitigated.
Mhm. I love that point. And after all the interviews that we've done, I don't think that a guest has put it quite that way. So I love that reminder that we should look at our businesses as separate from ourselves. I think that that is a really great way to kind of point that out because especially when you start something as a solo entrepreneur, which many moms do,
Yeah.
it's very connected to who we are, and we're typically wearing all of the hats and doing all of the things at least initially. um, but working towards creating that separation is so important for burnout and longevity, all those things. So that's great.
I used to joke that business wasn't personal. Well, it felt awfully personal to me because it was my hard work. It was my passion. It was me putting everything I had into that, into whatever I was doing. But the truth of the matter is, it's not necessarily, yes, it's personal in the sense that it's your baby, but just like children, we eventually have to let go and let them grow and have their own lives, which is really
Mhm.
hard. Trust me, I've been there. Letting go is one of the hardest things. And it's
Yeah.
the same in the business. It's like you're growing this, but at some point you have to realize it could be bigger than you are. And that's where that mindset comes in is what does this really look like long term? Because it's going to grow, and if you set it up for success, it's going to be much larger than what you even initially thought of.
Yeah. And again, another good point is, from what you just said, you can look at it as if you're going to continue to see your business as an extension of itself, of yourself, then you're limiting your business to just who you are. So I
Yes.
love that.
Yeah. And we all tend to do it. We do. We get into
Right.
this business mode and be like, oh, I have to do this. I have to do this.
Mhm.
It took me a really long time, longer than I want to admit, that I realized I'm like, I don't have to do all this stuff. I
Mhm.
certainly don't have to do the things that I'm not good at, like bookkeeping. We
Mhm.
definitely can hire a bookkeeper because
Mhm.
I am obviously not good at it. So why not hire somebody who can do it and be
Mhm.
efficient at it instead
Mhm.
of beating myself up? And so when I started looking at it that way,
Mhm.
realizing I did not have to touch every aspect, the
Mhm.
business really took off. And this is what happened to me where the business took off, but I also started to be happier. I started feeling more fulfilled. Letting go of a lot of things really kind of helped me be like, oh, it gave me more balance inside internally that
Mhm.
I could understand that I really did not have to do all this. And I certainly didn't have to do it all by myself.
Mhm. Yeah, I've experienced that myself. So I think we've already touched on some of the things, but I was gonna ask you, especially the not really obvious things, what are some of the things that kind of hold us back from kind of growing our businesses, and that you encounter?
I think that the first thing that is often that mindset of not realizing how good or how great it could be, not setting those goals high enough, not staying focused on those goals. And
Mhm.
so when we look at, okay, where am I going and how am I going to get there? Really taking the time to make sure that the time you spend are on the goals that you want to accomplish versus getting distracted. It's simply an 80-20 rule. You should spend, 80% of your time on the 20%. And it's a great book on this is 10x from 2x to 10x. And another one, the same authors are Who Not How. And it's that same concept of, where should I be spending my time and how do I really focus my time
Mhm.
on the right things to grow my business?
Mhm.
And so for me, I know I'm the top salesperson in my company. So if I want to grow this, I need to be the top salesperson.
Mhm.
Does not mean I need to worry about what's in my email or answering every single little request from clients. I have a team that does that. And
Mhm.
so we have to really look at, you know, how do we spend our time and how do we really stay focused on what we want to accomplish?
Mhm.
And so I think that that's one of the biggest things on entrepreneurs struggle with is how to really spend my time and make sure that I'm spending it doing the right things within my business and figuring out what are the right things.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I love that. And that is such a difficult thing to do. And it's so personal to who you are. And like you said, so you're really skilled in sales and just evaluating what it is that moves the needle and what you're good at and what's not draining your energy. That kind of thing is so important.
and I also realized that I looked at my overall time within a day. Where am I most energized and have the most energy? Where can I have more, really thinking and good at being able to write? Or when were the things so I actually really spread out my day and look at, okay, in the mornings, I actually can think more clearly and more on top of my game. So let's put the most important things there. Where the little things that are tasks that, don't take a lot of thought, I can put those towards the end of my day. And so just looking at your energy and where you're at your highest energy, you put those high energy requirements during that time is really important.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I can't agree more. I often suggest a time audit.
Yeah.
People are amazed at how they use their time. And not only how you use your time, like you said, how do you feel when you're doing certain tasks and how do you feel at certain times of the day? And so that's so important. But too, I'd love to talk about, as a designer, you have a creative side. And we're talking about all of the technical things with a business and all the strategy. So, how do you kind of balance the creativity and the technical in running a business? And how do you like stay inspired to be creative?
I think about that. I thought about that a lot. I think some of inspiration comes from the things around you, the what we're grateful for, what we enjoy, the things that we love, things like that are inspiring is art. What are the things? It's a sunset. It's a book that you read. It's talking to somebody who has overcome some kind of challenge and is successful. I am inspired by other people and their
Mhm.
successes.
Mhm.
What does that look like for you? And so
Mhm.
for me, being creative goes beyond, it never fails. I read a ton, an absolute ton of books. And then reading that, I'm always thinking, okay, how can I apply this to my business? Or does this apply? Or how could I use this information to help a client? And so for me, that's where that inspiration comes. It always comes at the most odd times, like, you're in the shower, you're driving. And so what I do is I use a little app that is voice to text. And
Mhm.
I turn it on, and all I have to do is talk, and it'll write everything down for me. And then I just email it to myself. And so I
Mhm.
have that information to be able to, go back. Okay, what was I thinking? What was that? What was that idea? Let's build that out a little bit more.
Mhm.
And so the other thing I always give tips on is when you're brainstorming and when you're looking for ways to grow, you put dedicated time towards that. I think that one of the things is I get a lot of ideas, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs do this, and okay, write it down. But we get so busy in the day to day, we don't actually go back and do that big thought thinking of, okay, where are we going and what do we want? We don't want to spend, all your time doing big thinking. You still have to get the job done, but you still need to spend, an hour, whatever that is, and really kind of dream and go, okay, what does this look like? How are we going to do this?
Mhm.
And really build out those ideas.
Mhm. Yeah, you shared so much good information right there. So, my question is, are you kind of intentional or is it subconscious where you realize that things are inspire you around you?
I think it's unintentional in some ways, but
Mhm.
I've learned to recognize it.
Mhm.
So if you ever driven down the street and you're noticing, like, fall is such a beautiful time because all the
Mhm.
trees are changing colors, and
Mhm.
you're looking and all of a sudden you see this, or the spring where there's plants and the flowers after coming out of the winter.
Mhm.
And you look at this and you see the beauty of it, and all of a sudden it dawns on me, I'm happy. I feel really good right now. And
Mhm.
actually just recognizing that in the middle, even if you're sitting in traffic and going, I'm actually really happy. And it's a crazy concept, but when I
Right.
started really recognizing what was
Mhm.
going on, it made me really appreciate and go, okay,
Mhm.
this is what it's supposed to feel like. This is what
Mhm.
success is supposed to feel like. It's not so much of the stress and constantly putting myself out there to, build this business. Sometimes it's just setting back and just
Mhm.
recognizing that the flowers are really pretty, or the
Mhm.
coloring of the changing of the color of the trees is a really pretty,
Mhm.
look.
Yeah.
And so I think it's taking that moment.
Yeah, I think that that's so important because I think so many people don't recognize it, don't kind of see what's happening, and then don't take advantage of, wow, I'm feeling really inspired right now. I'm feeling for some reason, and then noting that, and then taking the extra step to make sure that you expand on that, I think is incredibly important. And that's just so many great points right there because you should kind of be on the lookout to be inspired. You should, I mean, I'm a very spiritual person. I'm a very, I'm constantly looking for messages from the universe and things like that.
You.
And
Mhm.
so, I mean, I'm on the lookout for it. It's like I shared this synchronicity that happened a couple weeks ago. My daughter had bought me a print for my birthday, and I went back to the store to buy a frame for the print, and they gave me a free bag with that print on it.
Oh, wow. That was nice. It's funny you
Yeah.
say that. My husband teases me all the time because he's always like, you and your like signs, because I'm always thinking there's a sign. Yesterday, I ended up getting a text from a breeder of the dogs that we have. And I'm like, look, it's a sign. We need a puppy. And he was like, no.
This is so funny. I'm reading this book. It's called Signs.
Okay. I need to probably read that then.
It's a great book. It's
Is it
so
okay? Good.
good.
I'm so gonna pick it up
Yes.
because,
Yes.
yeah, my husband teases me all the time. He's like, it is not a sign. It's
Yeah.
like, I just, I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, it is. It's a sign. That means we need to have a puppy.
All right.
And we do not
No.
need a puppy, trust me.
A lot of other people agree it's a New York Times bestseller. So
Okay, I'll totally pick it up.
definitely. But I think it's so important to kind of, merge the two, the spiritual and the things that we recognize that's happening around us, and not just consistently trying to implement strategy and goals and those kinds of things, which are also very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing I've actually realized lately that I've been writing, so I write gratitudes every morning. But one of the things I've been writing, kind of twisting it around, if something bad happens, I write it as I'm really glad that happened.
Hmm.
And so because there's a lesson in everything that happens, whether it's, you got an offender bender, whether a client yelled at you because they're unhappy with something you do, that's an opportunity to, change and grow and understand that you have opportunities.
Hmm.
So anytime something bad happens, I've now been kind of turning that around and looking at it as, oh, no, I'm grateful for this happened. This happened for me, and there's a reason for it.
Hmm.
And I need to look at, okay, what were those reasons for this happening to me? Now, fender bender just stinks. But
Right.
it might not be the best opportunity, but maybe the person you end up meeting through that ends up having a business and needs your services. You
Yeah,
never know.
or
Or
kept
maybe they have a
you
puppy.
from, yeah, or kept you from being in a larger accident or something
Yeah,
like
it's like,
that.
yeah, absolutely. And so, but looking at those things when something bad happens, how did that happen for me? And what is that telling me that I need to adjust or change or make aware of? And so I
Mhm.
look at that and I bring gratitude through that and say, okay, that's something I'm grateful for because obviously this is something I need to learn different.
Mhm. No, I think that that's really important too. And I think that that is a common theme among successful entrepreneurs. It's just not woo woo. It's really developing that right mindset that you talked about. And I think so many people kind of scoff at, you really, "Oh, I'm fine with my mindset," but it's something you consistently have to work at.
It's consistent and it's not necessarily stuff you even know it is there. How your parents fought when you were a kid about money impacts you today.
Mhm.
Something that happened on the playground when you were in first grade happened. And I am the farthest thing from a woo-woo person. But the more I delved into it and the more I really looked at how my mind thinks and where I naturally go to when
Mhm.
something bad happens, when I start changing that and putting different energy around those things, amazing things happen. I
Mhm.
really start to see. I have a great example of that. I was at a big event through eWomen. It's a organization that I belong to. And what they did was they broke up groups and basically they had a contest on who got to speak on the big stage. So everybody got to speak for 5 minutes within the group, and then they all voted within your group for the winner, and the winner got to have 5 minutes on the big stage in front of 130 people. And I didn't even want to do it. I was like, I'm a speaker and I didn't want to do it. I'm like, I don't know it. I wasn't prepared. What am I going to talk about? Da 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 da. So I ended up rolling off my head of what, but I put the energy into it and I said, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get on the stage. And sure enough, I ended up winning my group and I got on the stage. I have a video, the whole bit. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, this stuff actually works. I
Mhm.
put positive energy towards something and it worked. And that's at that moment I realized that the energy work was really important.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm all about that. And, a Reiki student. I don't know if you know what
Okay.
Reiki is, but it's definitely very powerful. And we all should be a student of our energy and maintaining it and also setting the tone for others and not just reacting to like the situations that you were talking about. It can be so important, especially when you're working with clients. I mean, in an instant, energy can change depending on their life experience or how their day is going. And so you really set the tone yourself to kind of change the situation. It can be really powerful.
Yeah, and not spending wasted don't waste time on things that aren't good for energy. So
Mhm.
the news is a perfect example of that right now. Is I don't know about you, but if I watch the news, I never feel good afterwards. Not one single time have I ever watched the news and said, "Wow, I feel really good about myself right now." Instead, it's like this negativity that comes. Okay, well, if that's a negative interaction, why am I sitting there watching the news? I mean, yeah, I need to be informed. I'm not saying that, but it needs to be very limited,
Mhm.
doing things that bring good energy and recognizing the things that are not actually really healthy. Now, cleaning your house, I don't get much energy off of that one, but it still needs to be done. So take that with a grain of salt.
Right. Yeah. So, for moms who are listening who are thinking about doing a shift and maybe creating their own design agency, what are some of the lessons that you've learned that might be helpful for them? That, I mean, honestly, I think a lot of your lessons that I mean, the some that we've talked to could be applicable to any business that you start. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one of the biggest things that I have learned is dream big. You absolutely have to dream big. I run across so many entrepreneurs like, well, I never really thought about this, or I don't know. I like keeping it small. No, you need to dream big because whatever that goal is that you want to reach, you're going to work toward that. And so even if you work really hard, you're going to build something better. The other lesson I learned is that there is somebody out there to help you. You actually don't have to do it all yourself.
Hmm.
And there's a balance for me on how much I really want to learn new things and
Hmm.
how much I actually have to do the work. And so
Hmm.
it's really important, like financials. It's important to understand my financial documents, but that doesn't mean I actually have to do the documents. It
Hmm.
just means I have to be aware of the finances and what's going on my P&L statement. And
Hmm.
so it's really important to kind of understand those differences. And asking for help is actually okay. It's perfectly acceptable and it will actually help you. And then the last thing is just understanding from energy and mindset and all those things of, where is the best use of your time and really appreciating the time that you get to spend doing things. And so time flies really fast. When I first set out to start my business, thinking, okay, I wanted to make sure I was at baseball games.
Hmm.
Well, now that kid owns a house that's about 12 minutes from me, has his own life, does all kinds, has a great successful career. That time flew so fast for me. So every step I wanted to make sure I appreciated every game, every dinner together, everything that we do is I really try to find the good and the happiness in those little things.
Hmm. No, I think that's great advice. I just can't believe how fast time has flown by since I started this podcast, and
Yeah.
we're well over 100 episodes in. And but had I not done that, had I waited until the children were grown to have peace and quiet to be able to record a podcast, I wouldn't have already created something. So now that my oldest, it's her senior year and she's about to go off to college, I have this thing that is my own. And so I think that that's so important. We often delay it or defer it, especially as moms, and we really shouldn't do that.
Yeah, we put everybody in front of us, but
Hmm.
here's the key, just start.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out. You don't have to have all the answers. Just start something because you're absolutely right. Our kids go off, and I'm going through that right now. My youngest is 19. they go off and they start their own lives. That's why we raise them to do amazing things. And then there's us. And there's so many times I've never once thought, oh, I should, I shouldn't have started this. No, my thoughts are always like, I should have started this 5 years earlier. Just start. You will figure it out. I promise you, you'll figure it out.
Yeah. No, I love it, Jacqueline. You've given us so many great nuggets to think about. And I love how you not only inspire entrepreneurs to start a design business, but really what you teach is applicable to any kind of business that you want to start. And so I think that that's so important. And so what's next for you? What are you loving right now, and where are you kind of seeing things growing for you?
Well, one thing we're really wanting to go is into more of the videos and educating through videos on a more consistent basis or regular. I think that's video is a huge
Yeah.
channel and avenue. And so we're
Mhm.
working on building out a video strategy that includes interviewing people and talking to people about how they got started and what lessons they learned and
Mhm.
how you can apply that to a business. It's one of the
Mhm.
biggest things that we're working on. We have the hobby to profitability course that we offer, and you're right,
Mhm.
it's good for everybody of
Mhm.
how you get started in those business. And then
Mhm.
we're really growing our marketing firm. How
Mhm.
do we help other people and really share from strategy all the way to implementation? How do we help
Mhm.
those small businesses really grow?
Sounds like you have some amazing resources for the mom entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs who are listening. So, where can they find you and connect with you and learn more?
Sure. My website is behind the design co, so behindthedesignco.com. And then that is also my handle on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, I think. Might be behind the design on one of those, but I can't quite remember. But it's behind the design co. And you can find me in all your favorite platforms.
And I'll definitely leave links to all of those in the show notes below as well. It's been a great conversation, Jacqueline. I appreciate it so much. And you just helped remind me of so many things. And I'm sure listeners walked away with some really great nuggets.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Jacqueline.